This is the Swipe Smart Podcast. Join 80s babies Heather and Adam as they give perspective and share stories to help you navigate modern dating after 35. Welcome to Swipe Smart.
Welcome to another episode of Swipe Smart Podcast. I am your co-host, Heather Clark.
And I am Adam Marino.
Yes, and this is episode 2. So this is all about Adam's origin story. Last week we heard about Heather's, mine. I love talking to myself in third person.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Heather is doing this. Heather is introducing Adam. Heather is going to make his origin story.
Adam is getting upset.
Adam is getting on her nerves. Okay, so today's episode is we're going to be talking about your story. You know, how you got into the seat here in the podcasting world, but of course in regards to the context of swiping smart, like just your experience as, you know, a dude here, you know, as an 80s baby and your experience. So I just wanted to kind of get right into it, which I love that you asked me this question and you didn't even share that you were going to ask me this question. And I was like, wow, that was a really good question, Adam. Good job. Glad we're collaborating together. It was your first date, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I haven't even ever, first of all, I can't even remember last time I've been asked that question. And you took me way back, you know? So what was your first date experience? How old are you? Give me the scene. What was the setting? Who did you go on a date with? How did the evening or day go?
So I am turning 43 in a few weeks, the end of the month. Mm-hmm. And my first...
Wait a minute. When's your birthday?
January 30th.
Oh my God,
we've talked about this.
It came back to me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Keep going.
So, okay, first date.
First date. You're about to be 43.
Yep.
Your first date, how old were you?
I believe I was 16. I was driving.
Okay.
So 16 or 17, and she was 15 or 16. Mm-hmm. I can't remember if she was driving. So me and a bunch of my friends worked at Sears. We are 80s babies, so we are dating ourselves.
Period.
Sears. Can we just say Sears and I'll laugh?
Sears.
Come see the softer side.
Oh.
Sears. So I worked in the kids department because my mom knew the manager, and she had worked for her in the men's department. She moved to the kids department when I turned 16. Boom, she hired me.
Shout out to moms.
Yep. Of course, who did I always flirt with? The girls in handbags, accessories, and in the juniors department.
Duh.
I'm not flirting with anyone in tools. I'm not flirting with anyone in the men's department.
Yeah.
I mean, my best friend Paul worked in the men's department, but we would hang out. But okay. So I would always like flirt with, you know, this one particular girl. And I will say, throwback to episode 1. If you have not listened, hit pause on this.
Yeah.
Also, look in the show notes. You'll see 30 pause. Look at me. Look how I am. All right. So,
thanks for the plug.
In episode 1, you mentioned the idea of liking the idea of being liked and not necessarily liking that other human being per se. Yeah. And I will tell you that I was a huge victim of this
scenario.
Situation where I just was googly-eyed over this girl, the cutest thing you've ever seen. And she was feeling the attention. Yeah. And I brought her to my house. We watched Tommy Boy. My mom made us popcorn. My parents kind of left us alone in the living room so we could like watch and just laugh. And I drove her back, and I was so freaked out that she would lean in to kiss me that my first kiss was open eyes. I'm looking, and this girl she's trying to get into it, and her eyes are closed, and mine are open, and I'm just like,
Oh God.
I'm looking at myself. I'm kissing a girl.
Did you ever watch that Judd Apatow show called Freaks and Geeks?
Yeah.
I'm having a Freaks and Geeks moment for you right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
It was a great series. It lasted one season.
Yeah.
Shame.
And all the famous people coming out of there.
So good.
So good.
And it hit.
So it was the most awkward, fun, weird.
Yeah.
And within a month, she had moved on to like the next guy. And I was like, wanted to kill myself. Like, not, you know.
But that was your first date. Your first date was watching Tommy Boy at your parents' house. But you worked with her at Sears.
Yeah, we went on
so how did that
many
go
breaks
after? I was going to say, how did that go after the date? And how did you know she moved on?
Man, it's hard to remember. Like, I almost wanted to say, well, she just stopped texting, but we weren't texting back then. So
we didn't.
So like, I know that was so dumb. Like, I'm trying to think. Like,
our phones were like the size of these.
I know. Well, no. So you have to remember, I'm a tiny bit older, enough to the point where when I was
Nobody
16
had cell phones,
and you were 16 was different in that no one had cell phones when I was 16. We had pagers. So we're just enough difference where you're like, oh.
I didn't have a pager, but my cousin did, and I thought that was so cool.
Right. Yeah. So I think the next few times I asked her to go on break, she would say like, I'm busy or whatever. And then I think actually now that I remember, it's weird how you suppress hurt. I think she did have the talk with me like, hey, you know, I think you're really nice, but I kind of like this other guy.
Yeah.
And like, I think I kind of want to hang out with him. And I was like, womp womp.
Well, at least she was honest.
No, for sure. She really was. And I only look back with fond memories of this girl. Like, I don't think of like anything of the negatives. Like,
okay, well, good.
I
good,
just
good.
think of all the times we went on break and laughed together and like whatever, you know. And I did kind of follow up like later in life. I know she played soccer in college or like whatever. You know, I haven't seen her since that time, so it's been over 20 years. But I do vividly remember everything about her, where she lived. I'd been to her house. Like, I do remember that stuff.
Okay. So you were like, what, 16, 17?
Yeah.
Did you go to college?
I did and flunked out.
Okay.
Do you want that story or no?
Like, you can give me like a brief synopsis.
So I plagiarized.
Okay.
Along with 6 other people who did the same thing.
Okay.
But they changed enough of their answers, and I'm dumb and didn't. And so the professor was like, you didn't even try to change. So
ouch.
College wasn't for me.
It's
still not. I don't need it. So it just, no.
It was a no for you.
It was a no.
So you didn't have like that college experience, like where I call like 13th, 14th, and 15th grade.
Well,
I call it that because for me, in my personal experience, college was such a maturing time and a time for me to really kind of put 10 toes on the ground and establish who I was as an individual. Yeah. And that's why I don't think that everybody has to go to college to have this experience by any means. That's not what I'm saying.
I had some of it for sure. I was away from Fort Wayne, our home city. Like it was in Michigan. I was 3 hours away. So that aspect was cool. Yeah. To like really learn who I am as 18, 19-year-old and have experiences with girls. And, you know, it did happen at a smaller level.
Yeah.
Or
for a shorter time.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, okay, so you came back from college. Did you just like, were you starting to work? And how were you meeting people? Because again, this is like still no dating app era. This is just, you know, maybe who you work with. Like that is how I met my ex, was through work. Like, you know, at that time, it's not dating apps. How are you meeting girls? Like, how are you doing that?
The teeny bopper young 21 dance clubs.
Oh my God, and like Neptune?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You're
Absolutely.
taking me all the way back.
So
underage clubs.
So it wasn't Neptune. I went there, but the one was they would allow 21-year-olds in there.
Oh.
But it was more underage. But they had like a quota. If there was like more than 15 21-year-olds, they would stop letting them in. It was weird.
What?
And I met my first girlfriend there.
Yeah.
And
at the club.
Yep. And
50 would be proud.
She was a year older than me, which when you're that young, it's more like 3 or 4 years older, I feel like. And the experience level.
Well, girls mature a lot more than boys do.
And she was very experienced emotionally, physically, sexually. She was more experienced than I was.
Okay.
And excuse me, that was a turn on for me, like, because she was into me for sure. And
yeah.
And I was into her. We talked about before, like, oh, I was into her more. She was into me more. Like, this was pretty solid in that we both were feeling each other.
Yeah.
And we officially became boyfriend and girlfriend. And she was at IU, not to go to the campus of Bloomington, the IU Hoosiers. She went to Bloomington because she thought it would be cool. She went to freaking Ivy Tech and just moved down there and then cheated on me. Admitted it. Went to a movie with a guy.
So moved to Bloomington, but still was a student and enrolled in Ivy Tech.
Which is close to Bloomington. There's lots of Ivy Techs.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Not just in Fort Wayne, where me and Heather live.
Yeah.
There are other Ivy Techs.
But I also, just for context, I did not live in this area.
That's right.
For my whole adult life until about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I really don't know this kind of life.
So it's like a community college, kind of, and they have multiple campuses all over the state of Indiana.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but like, you don't move when you're 20, 21, 22. You don't move to Bloomington and not go to IU. That's one of the most famous schools in the country. Bloomington, IU.
It's a great school.
Yeah, but she didn't do that. So
Yeah.
I remember thinking, like, you want to move away from me and to not even
go to IU.
That's like
Yeah.
going to the water park and playing putt-putt. Like, you're not even going on the slide? That's a pretty big, cool thing.
That's all putting on the water park,
what?
lady.
Yeah, like, so I knew, like, oh, this probably wasn't a good sign.
Okay.
And then she started to mention this guy's name all the time. And at first I didn't think anything of it. But then when she said that she went to a movie with him, I was like, wait, just you and him went to a movie? And she was like, yeah. And it was like a romantic movie. It was like freaking Legends of the Fall or something. Something. Like, and I'm like, wait, okay. So
my best friend's wedding.
So I'm like, you like him?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah. And we kissed. And like, over the phone,
wow.
she's
She
telling
was
me
really, really laying it on.
So,
she was on the honest train.
So we ended it. And later in life, we did get back together. Like, just our paths crossed again. And we tried to make it work. And by the time I caught up with her for that second time, I had some experience under my belt.
Sure.
And I was a little bit more developed than what I was before. And it was more of a match in that way. But it just wasn't there, and it didn't work out. And again, I still have nothing but fond memories and positive things to say.
Yeah.
She's married. We're friends on Facebook. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't talked to her in a while, but I know I could hit her up right now and just
She'd
say,
respond.
hey, you were in my podcast, and I just wanted to say hi. Like, I could totally do that.
Yeah.
You know what? I will probably send her this. I will.
Well, good. I hope you do, because I will not be sending my ex that first.
No, I have nothing negative
it
to
was
say
a
at all.
completely different scenario. It did not end well.
No, she was great for me.
Yeah,
I learned a lot.
I'm okay with never talking to him again in my life.
No, I would never say that about this ex. Like, she was very positive for me in my life, and I learned a lot, and she's a very, very, very good person.
Yeah.
So I can definitely say that.
Yeah. It's not that I'm not saying that, but also, like, I know that there are some people, like, we're done here.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
We're
And I
done
have
here.
some of those. Just
Yeah.
it wasn't her in
Yeah.
particular, but yeah.
Gotcha.
For sure.
Gotcha. Okay. So I would say, how old are you at this point?
Well, when I got back with her, like
Mhm.
kind of 22.
Babe. Still a babe.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still a baby. Still a baby. The
Mhm.
baby. Yeah. That's right. The baby. Yeah. Anytime I'm 25 or younger, I'm like, oh, the baby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because you're still maturing. You're still flexing those dating muscles.
Brains
you're
aren't
still,
even freaking developed yet.
Yeah,
They're not
exactly.
fully there,
Yeah,
so.
exactly. So, yeah, I say the baby with an endearing connotation.
Yeah.
So, I would say after 30, give me an insight of your dating experience post quote unquote 30 pause, like post like maybe having your moment of like awakening, feeling like you have a bit more direction in your life. You're more specific. Yeah, tell me about post 30 dating.
Well, post 30 is absolutely huge for me because I had just gotten divorced.
Wow. Okay.
So I can backtrack a tad.
Mm-hmm.
And
please, dude, never knew you were married.
So we never.
Mm-mm.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We've known each other for so long, and like never really. Okay, well, cool. This is a great
Yeah.
way to like. Okay.
Yeah.
So
you got married.
So at 8 years old, I know I'm going way back, but you'll see why it ties in. So at 8 years old, I moved from California to Indiana so that my dad could go to school to be a pastor.
Okay.
And that's why we had to move to Indiana.
Got it.
So from 8 years old on, I've lived in Indiana. For a couple years in 2006 to 2008, I did move back to California just to check it out. So as like a 26, 27-year-old.
Yeah.
I moved back to Indiana, and I reconnect with a woman who I have known since I was 8 years old because my dad started a church with a guy whose sister-in-law was 11 years older. So I'm 8 and she's 19 in college, her freshman year in college. Okay. And so she practically like babysat me. Like an 8-year-old doesn't need too much babysitting, but like maybe you can't be all on your own. So her and her twin. Now I have I would say a very outgoing, fiery, when I'm in a room, I've been, not trying to brag, I've been told I light up a room. I'm that like entertainer type, right? Well, imagine me as an 8-year-old. It was on steroids. I was just like the life of the party, funny, always witty. Like I meshed well with older people, like even
Adults.
as an 8-year-old, even adults were like, oh man, that 8-year-old's cool. Like I was that kid. I just was. And so these two girls thought I was like the cutest thing. And I thought they were just cool. An 8-year-old doesn't really have that much of a crush on, I don't think of it like that.
Yeah.
But I certainly did have
He's
a crush
not a Casanova.
I definitely did have a crush as I get older because they are family friends. And so we visit them for Christmas. They lived in Michigan.
Okay.
Instead of going all the way to California, where do you think we went? To Michigan.
Yeah.
So now I'm 11. She's 22. Now I'm 26. She's 37. Okay, well, now we're talking.
The age difference is wild.
So, first of all,
Okay.
Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore had us beat
Okay.
by like 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
I'll have you know.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Miss Judger.
I'm not judging. I'm just
you're not.
noticing.
Okay.
I'm noticing the age difference.
Yeah, you are definitely noticing. So I'm 8, she's 19. Fast forward, I'm 29, she's 40. Well, a tractor beam just sucked us in.
Sure.
Where I hadn't seen her for a while, and all of a sudden I see her, and it's like, oh, okay, we're getting married. Like, I can't explain it.
Wow.
I really can't. And what happened was, I use the word court. When you court someone, people don't talk like that anymore.
Yeah, they don't.
I get that. But when you court someone,
I need to be courted.
fair. You find out what kind of life they want to live, or if they grew up on a farm, do they want to remain on a farm? if they grew up in the city, do they want to remain in the city? What kind of morals do they have? How will they raise their kids? Will they baptize their babies? Will they, all this stuff you kind of find out.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Core values, morals,
Here's the
standards.
thing.
Yeah.
Since I was 10 years old, I already knew all that stuff about
that
it.
for her.
I already knew it. So she wasn't a spring chicken.
Yeah.
So in my head, normally I totally get when people say, well, wait, take it slow. I get that. But
y'all knew each other.
But this was the one time where I felt like her nieces and nephews already call me uncle and have their whole life because I was a friend of the family. Her son, who was in 4th grade, I already knew him because I knew him when he was born because I was around for Christmas or holidays or this. Like, so
okay.
like, okay, to date was like no big deal. Well, we didn't tell our families right away because we thought it was bad because it was 11 years difference. So we thought, well, let's do it on the sneak. So like we dated for like a month or two. And then we're like, wait a minute. This is too positive. This is too good of a thing. Our families will go nuts in a good way for it. Yeah. So we did, and they did go nuts, which made it hard when I wanted to break it off. And so I didn't have the balls. And we talked about this in episode 1, that you didn't have the balls. And I didn't have the balls to break it, to break it off. And Jerry Seinfeld says, I almost got married once. Now he is married and has multiple children now. But back in the day,
Jessica's a queen.
Back in the day, he was single like forever. That was the thing. Yeah. And in his stand-up, he said, I almost got married once. I just didn't really want to do it. And I got to tell you, if you're engaged and you don't want to get married, it's kind of like you're on that roller coaster and you didn't really want to go. And you're just click, 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 click. As you go up you're like freaking out.
Yeah.
That's what I was. But what I did was I said, oh, no, God will handle this. This is natural. And God takes care of, so he'll bring me through this. So I just closed my eyes and went for it because this was the first relationship where deep down I knew without a shadow of a doubt that she liked me more than I liked her, and it wasn't even close. And it's not that I didn't like her. Yeah. I was attracted to her. She was so warm and friendly. Everyone loved her to death. Like, so it wasn't that I did not like her, but dear Lord, this woman was head over heels. And man, I got
smitten kitten.
I gotta tell you, it feels pretty good, man.
It does.
Feels pretty good.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get past that, and I should have. But as a 30-year-old, 29, whatever, it was my first time ever, which I sheepishly say that. Like, that's kind of crummy. That the first time I felt that someone really, really, really liked me was freaking 29 years old.
I think that's society ringing in your ear. I think that's people's timelines, and I think that's the whole point of, not the whole point, but a large variable of the whole creating of Swipe and Smart Masterclass, and then the creation of this podcast, right, is to know that, like, stop putting timelines to your life. Yeah. Like, stop creating these fictional timelines and these ways of like, oh my God, I just started dating at 26. Yeah, I did. That's my story. Like, right. I'm owning it. Like, you had that realization for you at 29. Who cares? Yeah, you own it. Like, you own it. Like, that's your experience. Like, everybody has a different experience. My parents lived like a whole 2 lives by the time they were 29. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to know that by the time I graduated college, my parents were divorced and my mom was a single mom with 2 kids. That it's a different time. So we don't need to live by these constructs of timelines. And I think it's a societal pressure.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why you thought that of yourself at 29.
For sure.
Am I wrong or?
No, you're right. And the more that I feel like I'm mature enough now to truly, truly be on board with that. But sometimes sometimes you get in your own head, for sure. But like, that's what this podcast is for, is to really let you know that your journey is exactly that. It's not someone else's, and you shouldn't feel
Stop
but how
comparing.
come that person goes through, like, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't.
And so all that to say that coming out of that relationship, we got married in July, and then that following July hit, and then Thanksgiving, and the Saturday after Thanksgiving, I walked out, stayed at my parents', and never went back. And obviously the divorce takes a little bit of time.
Sure.
But I always say I was divorced the Saturday after Thanksgiving, a
Yeah.
year after we were married.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the balls to just say, I don't want to get married, when I should have. So now I'm 30, and this goes to the beginning of your question from 18 hours ago. When, okay, well, now I'm in this awakened, like, now I know what it feels like. Now I'll never go through that again. But I felt a big shame because I involved the church that I worked at in the marriage. So I ran the youth group where my dad, remember, we moved here so my dad could become a pastor.
Yeah.
Well, I ran the youth group at his church. Well, that's a pretty shameful thing to do.
Is get divorced as a youth pastor?
Not only that, and I wasn't a full-blown
Okay.
youth pastor.
Yeah.
I was just doing it because they didn't have one.
Okay.
So
Fair.
I just did it. Like, took the buses to Cedar Point, ride the roller coasters, and
Yeah.
we went and saw Transformers. We took a group. Like, you know, we did
Yeah.
fun youth group stuff.
Yeah.
And then talked about God on Sunday nights. Like, got together. Like, whatever, right? Play Rock Band, you know. Dating ourselves again. Rock Band. So
Was a master in college.
So we need to have, like, all these Easter eggs of podcasts where how many times did we date ourselves where we say the word Sears and Rock Band? This is a new thing that we should establish in the podcast. Just so you know, like, in the show notes, we're gonna like.
Oh, like, we didn't have cell phones back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Pager.
we did it.
Pager.
Honey,
Like,
you had a pager.
so this is wild.
Pager,
So,
Sears, Rock Band. Check, check, check.
boom, boom,
Got it. Boom.
Easter eggs.
Yeah.
So I felt a big shame in that I incorporated these kids in when I was dating her, and when I asked her to marry me, they were there. It was on a youth trip. I got down on one knee
In public.
in a trail.
My
It was, well, it wasn't
biggest
in
fear
public.
is a
No,
public proposal.
It wasn't public. It was just me and her on a trail.
Oh, okay.
But when we came back, they
Then
were
she
waiting for us
said
with a
yes.
cake. She
Oh.
said yes. No. She said yes alone on the trail. We went for a walk away
Okay.
from everyone.
Okay.
She said yes. I said, well, I have a surprise for you. We walked back, and everyone was there. Some of her family, some of my family, and the kids on the youth trip.
And your percentage of affirmation that she was going to say yes was at a what?
1 billion. We had talked about it.
It was 1,000%.
Yeah.
So the cake was caking.
Oh, yeah. It was, yeah.
Yeah.
That
okay.
was not a thing.
Yeah,
that's
that
not-
was and no,
Dunzo.
like because she. Can I say she loved you more than you loved her?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
100%.
Mhm.
And so then when I'm going to get divorced, all these kids are going to know, like, well, geez, Adam really screwed the pooch. Like, he really messed up. A year and a half is all from July to
Felt
that
like
following
you were a bad
November.
example.
Yeah, like, that's pretty shameful, dude. Like,
Yeah.
so I moved to a suburb of Indy, Carmel.
Yeah.
So, which is about 2 hours away from Fort Wayne, the city that
Yeah.
Heather and I live in.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get out of town because I felt so.
Shamed.
And so now, though, I could reestablish myself. So I worked out every day. And a lot of our listeners, if they're not in Indiana, they may not understand, but Carmel per capita is like one of the richest areas, like
It is very ritzy.
in the Midwest, in the entire Midwest.
Yeah.
Look it up. Carmel, Indiana.
Yeah.
All of the Pacers and Colts and the professional, like their families live
They
there.
live
The
in Carmel.
coaches, they live in
Yeah.
Carmel. So I lived there.
Yeah.
And so it was like hot girl after hot girl that
Mm-hmm.
lived there. And I was in shape and like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so I could reestablish myself as a new person.
Yeah.
And until it was time to come back to Fort Wayne, like once the ick had worn off,
Mm-hmm.
which was a little less than 2 years. So
And
now
the
I'm like
ick,
32 or whatever.
Yeah. Is it the shame?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my ick.
Yeah.
So I come back 32, 33, like whatever. And now which puts me at 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So for 10 years now, I've been what I am now, as far as I've been single the whole time. I've gone on 57 billion, I counted, dates, but I've not had a girlfriend. And when I say girlfriend, a woman who I brought around my family and introduced and said, hey, babe, this is my parents. Like, I have not said those words in 10 years. So I have had many friends who were girls who have met my family because we're that close. And I've had, girls that I've been with for many months at a time, but still wasn't at that level to meet like family in that way. But I've learned a ton about, I'm big on the psychology of dating, and like I'm an ENFP. I want to put a link in the show notes of a person.
Easter egg right there.
Yeah.
He just said an ENFP. Okay.
So
that's the Easter egg of a true millennial right there.
Yeah. So the Myers-Briggs personality test.
Yes.
I want a link will be in the show notes. If you've never taken it, or if it's been a while. If it's been a while since you've taken it, take it again because it can change. So
it does change. It has changed for me.
Yeah. So I'm ENFP. I like to take on information, and when I'm on dates, I like to know what they are. I like to know what love languages are. I'm huge on love languages. Can I give mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the love languages are in my order. I'll give them in the ones that I love to receive, and we'll go over all 5. So the first one is words of affirmation. And here's what I'll say to combat the people that say actions speak louder than words. Like, you're misunderstanding. If that's your take on words of affirmation, then I need to really have you lock in these next 2 minutes. Understand what words of affirmation is. Let's say that you just spent 4 hours with your significant other, and you went on a nice date, and you went for a walk, and you listened to the radio or Spotify, just had whatever, and a classic song came on, and then you talked about it. I'm just making something up, but it's a very realistic thing that could happen, right? Okay. Then later, when you either are sleeping together, you're in bed, like pillow talk, or you don't live together and you're texting, this is what you say. This is what I would say to my significant other. Babe, thank you so much for today. There were so many times that you made me feel special. One of the times was right after dinner when you held my hand and just smiled. That really melted me. Thank you.
Well, you want specifics.
And then that's just one part. And then you say something like, I also think about when our song came on and you grabbed my leg. Like, that really made me feel special. I just wanted to say thank you for tonight. Now, that is words of affirmation. It's not, you don't say something like, well, actions speak louder. No. You're affirming what those actions were earlier. You don't say actions speak louder. That doesn't make any sense to me. Stop doing that. That's not words of affirmation. Words of affirmation isn't, oh yeah, I'll take out the trash, and then you don't do it. Words of affirmation is, hey babe, thank you for taking out the trash without me asking. That means a lot to me. That's words of affirmation. It's not like, it irks me.
Verbally recognizing someone's value.
Yes.
That's words of affirmation.
That's not actions speak louder than words. That doesn't make any sense. Stop
but also
saying
the performer in me, I'm like, words of affirmation, you have to also tell me like how great I am and how beautiful I am and how I'm the smartest person you've ever met.
And I do that too. I enjoy saying
selfishly, I'm like, wow. I'm like, those words of affirmations, yes. But I think, okay, we're going to go a bit direction, and knowing that my dating experiences, I would say in the past 5 years, I have recognized that men definitely need a lot more words of affirmation. But I didn't realize or recognize that it was a word of affirmation when I'm reiterating my appreciation to them.
So do you know why that is? I have the exact reason.
Why?
Because
my words of affirmation is like, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're intelligent, you got this. Those are words of affirmations. It's like my words of affirmation love language is like, I need you to be a cheerleader for me because I can't do that.
So, okay, let me speak to that. Let me draw on that. So when you say words of affirmation is saying like, oh, you look so good.
It's egotistical.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, though, words of affirmation, when someone can say, well, actions speak louder than words, instead of saying it, kiss them.
Yeah.
That would be the action. But what I am saying is words of affirmation is, hey, babe, earlier when you kissed me for no reason, you really made my day. There's a big difference in that than like, you got this. Like, you got this is it's not like a fake, like, but that's not words of affirmation to me, is what I'm saying. Like, saying you got this is just something that you do. But words of affirmation would be saying, hey, when you did that project,
recognizing actions that took place previously and
how they made you feel.
Yes. Yeah.
That is what words of affirmation
yes, it is. I think there's kind of
levels,
two sides of a coin when it comes to that. But yeah.
Well, my side of the coin is right, so just know
that. Okay. My gosh.
Anyway. No, but you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Okay, so words of affirmation, I'm big on, I love receiving it, and I'm very good at giving it. So, like when a big thing like you said was like, oh, you look good. Like, I will say that this outfit, this turtleneck, what are we calling it? Sweater?
Yeah.
Like, it looks good on you. It truly does. Now, was that me giving you words of affirmation?
No, it's a compliment.
Okay. And that's what I'm saying. See, it's not a compliment.
Yeah.
You're making my point for me. What I'm saying is when I say to you, hey, earlier, like, we're friends. So if I were to say, hey, earlier when you texted me to ask how I was doing, that meant a lot because I don't have a ton of friends that just reach out to me. So I wanted to thank you for doing that. That's not giving you a compliment.
Well, I would
say words of affirmation.
Your words of affirmation and what you're speaking to is consideration, verbal consideration.
Fair. Do you think that is something to be desired?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't believe in love languages because all of the love languages are what I desire. I desire all of them.
And so...
all of them. I want gifts. I want words of affirmation. I want acts of service. I literally, like, I would be like, well, my love language is this. And I'm like, really? Because my love language is all of them. I want all of that.
But that's fair. Mine aren't. And I'm going to explain it. Yeah. So my number one way for me to feel loved is you giving me words of affirmation. Mm-hmm. The second one is physical touch. The third one is quality time. The fourth one is acts of service. Mm-hmm. And the last one is gifts. When I say the last one, I don't want you doing it. Because I would rather you once a month not buy me a gift, save that money, and we're going to Chicago. Yeah. We're going to stay at a hotel. Yeah. And we're going to have fun.
Totally.
Okay, that's what I want. Oh, you spent money on me, babe? Oh. Yeah, like. Don't waste your money. Like, just, now, Christmas is my birthday, you better buy me a gift or I'm breaking up with you. Yeah. But don't, like, oh, babe, I bought you $100 shoes. No, don't do that. Yeah. Like, I
have an experience.
Now, if I'm wearing my 49er hat, I love the San Francisco 49ers. If you find, just as a friend, just so you know too, if you find a $2 keychain that says San Francisco 49ers, please buy it for me. Yeah. That's different. Freaking $2. Yeah. I'm saying, like, gifts, like, again, $100 shoes. Like, I had an ex that bought me these really, really, really nice Pumas. Like, they were dope. Mm-hmm. And I felt the ick. Like, don't you didn't have to don't do that. Like, yeah. But she was also very materialistic. Like, so that's just how she was raised. That's how she is. That's why we didn't work out. She's a very nice person.
Yeah.
But so when you say you want all 5, I truly don't. And also the acts of service, I really don't want you.
I think that's just more women.
And that's fair. I don't want you to do something unless I ask for it. And I will have no problem asking for it because I feel the ick. Like,
yeah,
oh,
and that's
babe,
women. I
don't waste
think
your
that,
time
like,
on that.
no, I want you to do things without me asking for it.
And I will.
Yeah,
and especially when I know that is a thing for you. Some people, acts of service is way above other things. When I know that, you can count on me to do the dishes without you asking. You can count on me.
Yeah.
If I know that is like a big thing. But that's why I like discussing that. I love the psychology of it. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I love diving into that. Now, it's awful hard to do that on a first date because you come off very intense. And I've learned that. I have learned that the hard way. I had some really cool, pretty girls that were into me at a certain level, and I scared them off, and I realized that.
Yeah.
But I will also say I've had a few girls that so connected with me right away because they enjoyed that I did that. Because we hit it off. And I also really love that because the connection goes through the roof then. So it's hit or miss. You can't be jaded just because 17 times it didn't work out. You can't do that because you never know when. You can be careful, but you still have to be yourself, is my take.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about people who have been on the dating scene for a handful of years? And I say handful is like 5 or less. Okay. And they're around our age because they have been married for the past 15-ish years.
I've been on a ton of dates with women in that boat.
Talk to me about your experience about that, and what is maybe your advice for just people in general, men and women, she's gays and theys, anybody who has been in a long-term relationship for such a period of time, 10, 15, 20 years, and then now it's like they're like newborn babies when it comes to actually dating.
Yeah. I'll say this. So let's take a look at this podcast, for example. So we are 2 actual professional podcasters. And here's what I mean by that. We both get paid to do our own separate podcasts. And we are coming together as a powerful force and we really do want to help a lot of people. And if you notice, there's no frills. We get right to the meat and potatoes.
Totally.
And what I am saying is the reason why I think we do that as professionals, we've learned, no one cares. Okay? No one cares. How are you doing today, Heather? How's the weather been? Oh my gosh, what did you do this weekend? Our podcast numbers would plummet. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Okay? We're getting into it. You don't want to hear that. Well, keeping in mind with that, what I'll say is too many people who have not been in the dating scene for too long and they were married for 15 years, too many of them have an attitude of, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. That is such a turnoff. No one cares that.
You don't know what to do.
Yeah. No one cares, sweetie. Okay. You think you're the only one that thinks dating's hard. Hand wave. Yeah. Like, I don't want to hear it. Let's just be real and say, like, hey, I'm kind of scared. I haven't done a lot of this, but like, I want to be able to have fun with someone and get to know them. Just say that. Yeah. Can you just say that? I don't want to hear this big thing of like, well, I haven't dated and boy, it sure has changed. And like, oh my gosh, that's just a turnoff. Like, I hear it enough to bring it up. I wouldn't just bring it up if it was only one person. Yeah. Like, I'm bringing this up because it is a theme and I don't care. I'm tired of it. Like, yes, we get it. Okay. You feel like you're an old fogey. You feel like you're from the Stone Ages. Okay, that's supposed to make me excited to go on a date with you now? Yeah. What is wrong with you?
Yeah. Well, I also, it kind of like speaks to the point where of like people being like, oh, this is just so hard. I've had so many just disappointments and heartbreak and da da da.
Yeah, join
and
the
I'm
club,
like,
sis.
join the club.
Yeah, get out of here.
Like,
Big
honey,
deal.
like you are not the only one.
The
also,
world's
join
smallest
the
violin. It's right here.
Yeah.
If you're
Like,
watching
you're
on, I
not
hope
the
you're
only
watching on
one. Stop
YouTube
acting like
or
you're
on
It's a
Spotify.
BB. It's a BB. Yeah.
Like, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Like, yeah. They use it like, oh, I can't believe I've been on. I bet I've been on 50 dates this year. And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, really? I bet I've been on close to 3 times as many. So you still don't have one up on me. You're still not telling me anything new.
I don't like the idea of that they're the only person going through what they're going through and making it sound like because of that, oh, well, woe is me. I can't do XYZ because I'm the only one.
And I had my audience and I had followers and people who were like that in the Swipe Smart masterclass that I created. And it was just kind of like, yeah, now you know, like, not everybody's like this. And, like, you know, you can actually, you can know of people who have kind of been in the same scenario and be like, it's okay to be green and be new at something.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most insecure part about it. And maybe the most annoying part, as you mentioned, is just the fact that they're being so insecure about it is because they are so green to it. But, like, also, like, you put me, in hockey and skates, I'm green to that. Like, I don't know how to do that. Like, you have to think of dating as like a muscle. You have to, you know,
you haven't stretched it.
You haven't stretched it. So like, what do you expect? You're not going to be some Olympic triathlon in dating.
And what I'm
saying
saying
is, when you're 15 years fresh out of a relationship,
no one is an Olympic triathlon. So stop. I don't want to hear that. Oh, well, I haven't done this in years. Well, yeah, but I'm not a sprinter over here either.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know what I'm doing either. So calm down.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It can be difficult. And what I don't like is how it makes me sometimes feel older than what I am. I don't like feeling like I'm with an old maid. Like, I just don't like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about you now that you're in your 40s? You graduated 30 plus. Now you're in your 40s. It's like, okay, how is dating different from your 30s to your 40s now?
To be honest, I feel 35.
Okay.
I really do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel there's a difference. I just don't. Like,
yeah.
I would still date the same person as a 35-year-old or 43. Like,
okay.
I know maybe that's weird. Maybe I'm supposed to say, like...
No, I don't think that's weird.
I don't know. Like, I would still date the same 33-year-old that I would, like... Now, obviously, I've grown as a person, but I'm just saying, if there is a 33-year-old woman out there who checks all the boxes, has all the green flags, and is just amazing.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed from when I was 35.
Right.
As far as, that person is still going to be for me or whatever. Like, I simply don't know if I can say, oh, well, now, 6 years ago, I wasn't looking for this, but now I am. Like, there isn't.
I think each experience is it's like a special recipe. It's like a catered experience, because I assure you, I'm not dating the same person I was dating 6 years ago. Not at all. Like, I'm dating more assured people. I'm dating more, specific. I'm dating better leaders. I'm dating, like, for me, in my experience, like, I'm not dating this. Thankfully, I'm not dating the same person. You know, I'm not even dating the same person I dated a couple years ago.
I would say I was always looking for that, like you said, like leader and whatever. That I was always looking for that. I'm not saying I'm better. I'm just saying, like, to me, I don't know if I'm looking for anyone that was different. I want someone that will challenge me. I want someone, but I also wanted that person 6 years ago. Like, I wanted I still want the same things. I don't know if I was more mature in that situation.
Yeah.
But I simply haven't found it.
Yeah. And I think I was like a processor through experience. Like, right, I had to experience things to process, like, the experience and to, like, understand and be more specific about what I wanted. And for me, each person I date, each experience I have, it gets even more specific because my process gets like a bit more refined and I'm knowing myself better.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you're always technically growing. Like I mean, well-rounded people are always like, yeah, I am there. Okay. I will say this, maybe now the more that I process and hear you explain it, like maybe I am looking for someone who does have a bit more of an entrepreneurial brain. And it doesn't mean that you have to. You can totally work 9 to 5 and want to for the next 20 years. It doesn't mean that you're not for me. But boy, it's hard to relate as a full-time entrepreneur. Like sometimes in my experience, women don't understand that it's not that I'm too busy, but it's at 7:47 p.m. when you've been off the clock for 3 hours. I'm not off the clock. Like if something happens, I do have to take care of it. It doesn't mean you're not important. It doesn't mean that.
Yeah.
But it also means that when you take PTO, I can just simply take a Thursday off and take you to Chicago for a day trip.
Yeah.
Because I just can.
Yeah.
I don't have to ask for permission. So there are pros to it.
Yeah.
But at 7:47, sometimes I'm not available.
I think that's like when you're dating older, you're dating past 35, you're getting more specific. It's like, yeah, I'm going to have to date somebody with more of a flexible schedule because I'm not like this 9 to 5 and weekends only available person. There's tons of people on dating apps now over 35 that are specifying their schedules.
So, funny story.
And I don't think anything's wrong with that.
Tell me if you think this is a bit odd, because one of my other friends told me that it was odd. I had a girl that I was trying to go on dates with, and we were trying to like get our schedules lined up, and she sent me her schedule. Boop, here it is. 9 to 5 this day, 1 to 9 this day. I'm off this day. Do you think that's weird?
No.
Why?
I don't think it's weird because she said, here's where I'm at, plan it. She said, I'm giving you the tools, now build it.
So you don't think it's creepy to, and I'm not saying I disagree. I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit because I'm just curious. Like, you don't think it's creepy a little, not creepy, that's the wrong word, but like
peculiar?
No, I don't. Yeah, or like you're already telling me like where you're gonna be like next Friday at 2 p.m. Like, hold on, stay out of my business. Stay out of my business.
Yeah.
Like, hold on.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think at this point in our lives, if you're 35 plus and you're dating, chances are, a lot of times, that person's going to have a kid. Person's going to have an obligation of something, a job, a kid, a something, that they're like, okay, this is like my window of time. Yeah. Please, like, respect that. And this is when this is me giving, like, me as a person, if I was in that scenario, I never gave anybody my schedule.
Okay, see, there you go.
But I don't live a lifestyle where I have to give people my schedule so that they can choose to pencil me in. That is not, like, I'm not obligated to people, places, and things like that. And some people are. And that's just what it is. I know women. I have friends who, have kids who are single mothers. That's a different ballgame. Hey, I am available at this, I gave you my availability. I think that's essentially someone being proactive of saying, like, I'm very interested, but my time is limited, and I do want to make time for you.
Yeah, I definitely took it as that, and I thought it was cute, and it worked out.
Yeah. I've had guys I have dated, and they're like, okay, well, maybe we should make like a Google Calendar, and when we like can get together and blah blah blah, because they had kids and da da da. Yeah, it was a great idea in theory, but he never followed through on it.
In theory, but it's just like, that's just kind of weird, like, because then other stuff goes in the Google Calendar. Like, I don't need to know when you're getting a haircut.
Yeah,
you put that in your calendar. It's just weird. But
yeah, a little too much.
Yeah. That's how I kind of a little bit was like, okay, because then it's like you're off at 10, and then I want to text you at 10:15. If you don't text back, I'm like, well, I know you're off. Why aren't you texting back? Like, it was just it was kind of weird.
Yeah, that's called overthinking. That's called spiraling. And we'll get into more of that.
Oh,
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But I'm glad we have a little bit of your origin story of, your dating history and your past. I had no idea you were married. So now we know what we know. And so
knowing is half the battle.
Knowing is half the battle. And, more personal stories to come, more guests to come, and more topics for everyone who's dating over the age of 35 and having this experience of, we're the first generation, I think you would say. Wouldn't it be fair to say that we're the first generation of this new age dating that is going to be, this market's not going to die. Like this dating app market, it's not going to die. It's going to continue. And this has now been established. This is how dating is, modern dating is, right?
So follow us so that you can swipe smart. I mean, that's pretty much what we're going for. So remember, again, the link is in the show notes, the masterclass. We talked a lot about it in episode 1. We'll talk about it. This was kind of like the origin for the podcast, this episode 1 and 2, this first Monday, and today's Thursday that it's out. Moving forward now, starting Monday, January 8th, will be the flow of our show.
Totally.
Where we'll get into topics. Monday will be shows where we get into the topics, even if it's like based on what's going on. Like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. We'll talk about that, what we think about it.
I don't want to, but sure.
But I'm just saying, as an example, maybe not literally, right? But we'll talk about that based on what's happening in the world.
Yes, exactly.
And then on Thursdays, they won't be time sensitive. We'll just try to get into hey, remember this movie?
Specific topics.
Specific topics based on other things that could be about movies, or it could be, we'll dissect a movie and then break down our male and female take. Like that'll be really fun to talk about, like a romantic movie. I'll give the guy's perspective of why I thought that scene would never happen, because no way, that writer must have been a woman, because guys wouldn't internalize it that way. And either that could blow your mind, or you could be like, yeah, but have you had a situation where XYZ happened? That, dude, that's a podcast. That is really fun. And that's the stuff that I am excited to do with you as well. The big thing for me was when I came across your masterclass, I really wanted to give a guy's perspective on some of the things that you were saying.
Totally.
And as a professional podcaster, to you, a professional podcaster, I thought, well, this could work because we know what we're doing.
Absolutely. And also, I just don't want the idea or ideology of thinking like, oh, well, this woman is creating this masterclass for women. Yes, my participants were women, but there are so many good nuggets for men 100%. To understand and know. And it's not like gender, like bias by any means. So I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, that's not my orientation, that's not my gender, that's not any of that, to feel like these are simple strategies of people who are dating in modern ages now. And that's it. These are strategies for everybody. You can apply them for anyone who is just in the same boat like we are.
80s babies.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very cool. So stay tuned. Make sure that you like and share with your friends. We want to be able to have guests on. Once we've established the show, we'll have guests.
Totally.
And we want to have big guests, and they're not going to come on. I've said this before. They're not going to come on if we have 17 followers. So come on, guys.
Yeah.
Like and share.
Hop on the train.
Boost the algorithm, all that kind of thing, so that we can bring you more value. That's the bottom line, is we're trying to just add value to your dating life, and we are helping you to swipe smart.